Welcome to TV Plus Talk. I'm Chuck Joyner. She is Charlotte Henry. Charlotte, it's great to
Hello,
see you.
hello. So good to see you. Happy TV Talk Day and happy Thanksgiving week, American friends. This is very nice.
Yes, as we recorded this, the holiday is coming up on us. When you'll
Yes,
see this, I'm not sure, but the sentiment remains the same. So thank you, Charlotte. We appreciate it.
it
And you're
does
welcome.
remain the same. And, maybe you'll enjoy this finishing off your turkey or something.
Sure. And listen, if you want turkey yourself, even though you're not in the U.S., feel free to borrow our holiday as an excuse to cook a
Mm.
turkey.
I mean, I am obviously pro turkey.
Yeah. I've never heard anybody take that position before. I like it.
Yeah, no, I am pro like turkey dinners. And turkey sandwiches. So we can enjoy it. We can make this a transatlantic celebration. And as I was saying to you off air, I'm pro having a day where the NFL is on the whole time, and it's an extra day of that as well. So that's always quite fun.
We're glad we can help accommodate you, Charlotte. So we're here to talk Apple TV.
Oh, is that
And
what we're doing?
well, that's kind of the plan. Or although we
Cool,
will
cool.
later we will degenerate into a sports discussion related to Apple TV. But I guess the first thing to
Mm.
start off with is the morning show has wrapped up season 4. Um, have you finished the season? Because I still have an episode and a half to go.
I've got a bit to go as well, and I think we should give viewers, listeners, a little bit of time to make sure everyone's finished, because I think we've got to do a deep dive. Right, next show we'll do a deep dive into the whole season.
Yeah, I think that's good. But I will say this, that I was very satisfied, much more satisfied with this season than previous seasons. So hopefully that'll encourage some people to go out and check it out.
I agree entirely with you. And each episode has kind of got better as well, I would say so far.
Yes, would agree with that too.
So
So
so we'll dive into that in a couple of weeks' time. I'm going to be a bit naughty and break from our slightly planned schedule because I think it links this, which is that Apple TV has the highest rated IMDb shows. Now, you sent this to me. I got the impression you weren't surprised by this.
well, let's put it this way. I agree with it. And I'm kind
Mm.
of I feel validated because we've talked several times on the show about just the quality of the shows that are being put out, even the quality of shows that don't interest me personally or you personally, still seem to get really high marks for the quality of the show. And so this just brought it up. And I feel like this integrates also into our discussions about back catalogs and just having
Mm.
these massive libraries as opposed to focusing on delivering quality and value, not just for the time, but also for the money. So I felt a bit vindicated by this.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. Actually, it's Apple has always taken the quality, not quantity approach. We've said it from the start of this show. They've said it from the start of the service. And this seems to be some kind of justification. Look, IMDb is IMDb, right? It's not, this is only as accurate as the people that play into it. But this does give an indication that when people watch stuff on Apple TV, they like it
Agreed.
and think it's of high quality. And so that does tell us something. And if I were Apple, Jamie Ehrlich and whatever who are running Apple TV, I would just be a little bit satisfied with this. And actually, at a strategic level, I think it probably bears out as well. In that sense of saying, we're not going to pump out a whole load of stuff. We're not going to buy a whole load of stuff on catalog. We're going to focus on the high end. What's the comparison? We say HBO kind of, that's what it wants to be, right? And that I think has clearly is starting to work.
And Charlotte, it kind of takes us back to the original introduction of when it was Apple TV Plus, that Tim Cook came out and said, this is all about telling great stories. And
Right.
we've also talked about how Apple plays the long game. And this would seem to validate their long-term strategy, that this is what they wanted to do the whole way through. Now, this is one article about one evaluation, but I think it's kind of hard to argue with the whole premise of being great stories.
I agree. I wonder if that's enough to sustain a streaming service. We'll come on to why in a minute. Got to, the main bulk of what we're talking about today. But yes, so this is what Apple World said. It said Apple has the highest average IMDb score for its streaming library, which the average was 7 out of 10. And I didn't quite realize this till I dived into it, but that is for the 4th year running.
I don't think
so.
I'd forgotten that part. Yeah.
Right. That to me seems very significant. 2021, 22, 24, and 25. Wait, that's not 4 years in a row. Anyway, 4 years out of the last 5, it's been the top performing one. For some reason, it wasn't quite there in 2023, but it still has the smallest library. Okay. So basically, it's getting, you could argue, therefore, that it is getting most of its show selection, the things it commissions, correct. That is obviously the case that Apple would make, right?
Yeah, I would agree.
So that's a pretty good endorsement.
I think so. And I think it's interesting, and perhaps this is a bit ill-timed just because of the way the world has evolved. But we've talked about how, some people, at least some people I know, bounce from service to service because they want to watch a particular series. It's not as much about subscribing to Netflix, Disney, whatever. They have show reasons for subscribing, as opposed to saying, I want to subscribe to Apple TV or, God help us, NBC, or one of the networks, or the BBC or Sky One. So that's too bad, because Apple TV is delivering on what they promised, and I think what people will enjoy watching.
Sorry to interrupt, but I really want to emphasize that point you've just made.
Okay.
Delivering on what they promised. I think that's such an important point you've just made.
Yeah, I thank you. Because that's and it seems kind of obvious, and I feel like it's been obvious for a while. And for whatever reason, neither one of us have picked up in the past on these IMDb ratings. So I love it. Maybe we're gushing a little too much about it, but I just think it speaks to almost every show we've done here on TV Plus Talk, that we stress the value, we stress the quality, and not every episode of every show is going to be a 10 out of 10, but overall the effect is there.
Right, and that's the point of this rating, right? It's average streaming. It's the average across all the catalogue. That is what 7 out of 10. It's actually Prime Video that seems to have the most excellent quality. Or the best TV shows per $1 is the way it's described here. So generally, it's Prime that has the most top shows. But as a whole, this is saying that despite having the smallest library, which I guess helps you with the average, right? If you have a smaller library. But anyway, there seems to be a sort of quality thing, if not quantity thing, going on with Apple TV. And again, that is what just to reiterate your point, that is what they promised. It would not be a dumping ground for a load of stuff. It would not be the place where you watched huge amounts of things, but they promised what was on there would be good and would be of high quality. And they've been ruthless in getting rid of stuff that wasn't received well. And again, let's not overstate what this one little bit of data is, but it's a good positive indicator for the service, I think.
And I want to go back to something you said, because you make a really interesting point that, okay, it's not number one, and is it enough to sustain a streaming service? That's an open question. But what is, viable? Because Apple feels like it's putting a lot of money into this and it's getting out a lot, as opposed to some of the others that are just throwing money at the wall to try to, produce a lot of shows. And invariably, they're going to hit, some good shows. Invariably, they're going to miss a lot. And it's not. I'm not sure it's wasted money, but it certainly is not getting the giving the shareholders the value back, or the viewers for that matter. So, yeah, it's a different approach than anybody else is taking.
Yeah, there's another interesting stat in that Apple World article that jumped out to me, which is Prime Video gained the most content year on year, went up 83.3% new, got 83.3% new content, and then the next was Apple on 39.5% increase in content. That kind of is interesting as well, right? So Prime Video is obviously doing the sort of approach you've just talked about of trying to get a load more stuff in there. Apple is getting more stuff in there, not anywhere near to the level that Prime Video is. It's beating Disney, by the way, which was up 27.9%. And so that kind of underlines again what we're talking about, right? It is building a library. It's not building it hugely fast, but it's building it enough that there's still new stuff on there. Again, like you, I don't want to sound like we're gushing, but I think we have to deal with reality as it is. You and I have criticized shows on TV. Plus, we've consistently criticized the way they market Apple TV consistently from day one. And I think that is still a valid criticism. But we've always said, when you actually sit down and dive into it, there's a lot of pretty decent shows there. I would say one thing, though, if I want to put a slightly negative spin on it, 7 out of 10 is the average. Okay. Now, 7 out of 10 applies to me. There's a lot of your shows are quite good. How many Apple TV shows would you say are 9 out of 10? And I think that's the next thing they need to focus on.
Yeah, and that's a really subjective thing, because again, we've had this conversation that, some of the things that you would probably give a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, they wouldn't even rank for me because I just wasn't interested. But then there were others that I really liked that I'm not sure you were quite as enamored with, if you were enamored at all. So, yeah, that's this problem with this kind of thing, both good and bad. Sure, we want to see him at the top of the list, but it's best is so subjective. And your comment about Prime is really also interesting to me, because right now I can think of a lot of the Apple TV shows that I've watched the series over the last, let's just say, 4 or 5 months. I can't really remember any Prime series that I've watched. And I am a Prime subscriber because I have Amazon Prime for all the other reasons that you get Amazon Prime.
For me, it's Reacher. On Prime.
Reacher, okay. I'll give you Reacher. Reacher was very good.
I watched season 1 of Reacher. Is enjoyed the word to describe how you watch Reacher? I don't know if it's enjoy, but I watched it all. I thought it was a very good series.
Yeah, enjoyed it would be the term I would use for pretty much anything. I mean, it was, I like the
it's
character.
Quite graphic, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but that's, and happily Apple is also quite graphic in places. So
right, yeah.
So they've maintained parity with that. Honestly, I went through Reacher, and okay, so maybe you give me another one if you come up with one, I'll acknowledge it. But I can't think of another, and
I'm not good.
Yeah, and yet I see stuff promoted all over Prime, and yet none of it makes my watch list.
No, I think I agree with that. That's very interesting. Yeah. One thing Prime Video does, of course, have is live sport. And that world is somewhat changing as to where Apple TV sits into it. Which is very interesting. So the first thing I guess we should do is discuss Major League Baseball. I like baseball. I'm not sure you're a massive baseball fan, are you?
I'm not any kind of baseball fan.
You're
Well,
not
that's not
anything
true.
less fan, right?
I enjoy the 30 seconds worth of highlights in a daily newscast. Because yes, there's some amazing
Right.
plays. I'm just not willing to invest 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to get that 30-second hit.
I get that. Well, interestingly, Game 7 of the World Series was a huge moment. It was the most watched Major League Baseball game in 34 years, apparently. And there is now a 3-year media rights agreement with Netflix, NBC Universal, and you will notice which company is not in that list, Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, Apple is a streaming service. And a lot of, I think, didn't you say NBC? And
NBC Universal, ESPN, and Netflix.
Okay, so yeah, so to be fair, they are all paid streaming services. So yeah,
Right.
Apple just decided to put their money elsewhere.
Well, that is exactly right. And there's a lot going on with Apple in the sports space, which is part of the story. So it's got Formula One, which we've discussed. It's currently got Major League Soccer, but that is coming to an end. And Apple has actually paid a huge amount of money to get out of its decade-long MLS deal early. We found that out during the week. We've got a change coming before that deal ends, which is the games are now going outside the paywall from next season. So, as you know, to watch the MLS, you have to buy what they call season pass, which is an add-on to Apple TV. Some games have come out of that paywall already. Now every game will be coming out of that paywall. I have to say, I think this was a major gaffe by MLS, Apple, or both to ever put it behind an extra paywall. You're asking people to pay twice for a league that is not that popular in the first place and that desperately needs people to want to watch it. I am shocked they ever thought that would work.
You follow this much more than I do, so I can't comment. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that anytime you ask people to pay extra for anything, it's going to cut down your viewership. Whether they felt like they could do it because of the stars that they attracted, and that would drive it or not. But it keeps Apple in the live sports game in something that is, at least it feels to me, boy, I'm going to get emails for this. It feels like it's a little more up and coming than established in the U.S. as far from a fan and viewer standpoint. So this just, I'm glad to see it. Was it a gaffe? Was it a requirement by one side or the other? We'll never know.
Right, we don't know that. Yeah, we don't know if the MLS said to get all our money, you need to add this season pass feature. If they did, they were idiotic. If Apple said, why don't we try and do this? Apple were idiotic. If they both thought it was a good idea, both groups are idiotic. Because there was no way that was ever going to get enough interest. It just wasn't. Someone like me who can watch most soccer leagues from around the world, I'm never going to pay, what was it, £99 or something for the season? I can't remember what it was, but there was just never a chance I was going to pay that much. Pay anything. Had it been part of Apple TV and they'd said, how cool, as part of your Apple TV, then Apple TV Plus subscription, you get to watch all of the MLS. Cool. Maybe if there's the time zones align and there's some players I want to watch, maybe I'll put the MLS on in the background. There was zero possibility of me paying that extra amount. And if I'm not going to, if I'm not in the pool of people that might pay that, there's a not very big pool, let me put it that way, of people that are going to do it. I think it was an insane decision. It was a huge risk to do a 10-year deal, first of all. And second, as I say, I can say it in as many different ways, yeah. The idea that you would put 2 barriers to entry to watch the league was insane.
The
And now,
sorry, go ahead.
no, and now it's coming to an end. Was all I was going to say.
Yeah. So let me offer an alternate explanation.
Please.
Was this a test? Was this a test to see if soccer in the U.S. would draw enough of an audience to pay for it? And I'm taking my cues from the NFL, because the NFL used to be all broadcast, wide open. And then we started to see things drift in behind paywalls. Monday Night Football went behind a paywall. Then Thursday Night Football was Prime only. And so right there, you're asking people to pay more, maybe not specifically for that, but they're asking people to pay to watch those games.
Games go to Peacock as well, haven't we?
I'm sorry?
We've seen games go exclusively to Peacock as well.
Yes, exactly.
A couple of games.
Yeah, and so where does this go? Are we just moving to a point where the broadcast TV is going to be nothing but reality TV and game shows, and everything you're going to have to pay somebody to watch it? Or did they realize, did Apple TV Plus and the MLS decide or realize that they weren't getting the traction they wanted and decided to push it back outside the paywall?
Oh, I suspect it's the latter. So there's some crazy stat that I keep hearing on all like the sports media podcasts and stuff. I think it's something like the 99 most watched TV shows last year or something were 99 of the 100 most watched TV shows or TV episodes were NFL games. It's something insane like that. I'm probably slightly warping, but basically almost everything in America that is popular is live sport. I don't imagine it would be hugely different here. So live sport is crucial to broadcast TV is my basic premise. And in the book behind me, Streaming Wars, I write all about why that is. But also in that book, I point out, obviously lots of streamers are going to buy streaming rights. I think it's really interesting now that some baseball is going to Netflix. The company that said it never wanted to do live sport, suddenly doing quite a lot of live sport. So Netflix is going to have the Home Run Derby, opening night exclusive, and special event games. So not seasonal games. Sunday Night Baseball is going to ESPN, and then Sunday Night Baseball will go from ESPN to NBC Universal, and there'll be some on Peacock as well. Apple's just gone from the whole collection.
And, okay. I mean, again, they decided that maybe it's better to put their money somewhere else. One thing about live sport is that you really don't get a lot of people watching it in reruns. You don't get a lot of people watching it the second time around. By the
name, right?
Yeah, well, there is certainly an implication there. And so, it's one of the few things that you are forced, if you want to see it, you are forced to sit down at a given time and invest that time. Some of those statistics you just cited would be really interesting from a total viewership standpoint if you tried to put it up against a season of a particular TV show, be it Apple TV or, one of the other pay services. Because those you consume at your leisure, and you have a lot of repeat traffic on those too, especially things like Star Wars or the Marvel Universe that people just seem to fall in love with. So, the old saying, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And, I have to wonder if this might be.
I don't think this is an example of that.
Well, there may be a little wiggle room.
I know what you're getting at. I do know what you're getting at. But I think the point is just how the numbers that live sport can draw in are just not the same as anything else. But yes, you're obviously right that is in a limited window. Just back to this MLS deal, because I think it's quite interesting. So, $200 million for the 2026 season. Then $107.5 million for a transitional February to May 2027 sprint campaign, because what's happening is that MLS timings are changing and it's going to come into line in sync with the European leagues. So they're moving things around a bit. So the season is going to begin in July instead of February. And then it's going to do $275 million to have the 27-28 and 28-29 season. So it's paying an extra $50 million or so than it would have otherwise over the same period, if that makes sense. And then we'll be leaving the deal. Basically, Julia Alexander at Puck put this rather nicely. She said, Apple is paying a premium for an expedited divorce. It's decided it wants to get out and is throwing some money at the problem.
Yeah. At this point, and it, maybe just like, well, no, it better not go into a divorce discussion. No, that's not going to work. Let's just, I'll leave that alone.
Yeah, skip that.
Sometimes the best thing to do is just cut your losses.
I would say so. Well, and that is what Apple, I think, is doing. And also what they're obviously trying to do is get, in that period of time, get as many people viewing it as possible by asking you not to pay extra.
Possible.
Well, that is what's happening, because they're removing the paywall now.
Well, yeah.
I'll be fascinated to see if, in doing so, either Apple TV gets more subscribers, or if the league gets more interest because it's more accessible. Will the people that pick up a new iPhone and get Apple TV free for a period of time suddenly tune into MLS? Not sure.
And, well, we're seeing right now, we're witnessing a deal being renegotiated, or, like you say, getting early divorce. Could it be renegotiated yet again later if you see the uptick in viewership? Nothing means that this, nothing that it means that this is an absolute. It just means that this is what has been announced, and you don't know. Again, so many of these things we talk about and they get reported on, and we really don't know exactly what all the terms were. So, we'll see.
I mean, that's such an interesting question, because in 27, 28, early 2029, could we see something? Are we going to be sitting here chatting, going, "Oh wow, Apple has just signed another 5-year deal with MLS to show games on Apple TV away from the paywall"?
Yeah. I mean, maybe the 10-year deal, the 10-year deal may have looked good at the time for one, the other, or both, and now maybe not so much. And so it would certainly appear that Apple is the one that is wanting the early divorce, but you don't know. And also think about if we'd had this conversation 3 years ago, what the sports streaming landscape looked like then, as opposed to now. It is constantly evolving.
100%. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. And that's, that leads the question I wanted to ask you, actually, which is, where do you see Apple in that landscape now that it's made these two shifts? What do you make of where, plus the F1 deal that we've discussed, where does Apple sit in that world now?
I feel, to take us almost back to the start of this conversation, Charlotte, I feel like there are long-term strategies that are going to play out. Whether Apple continues this, Apple has, at least in theory, maybe something that nobody else really has tapped into yet, and that's the spatial video thing that they could offer as an asset for a sport that wanted that kind of traction. Does that play well to?
Yeah, although no one actually owns a Apple. What's it called? The VR headset.
The Vision Pro. Yeah, so there's definitely limited viewership, but again, we've seen Apple take things and twist them around or integrate them into other products, and so that's one that I feel like I'm not ready to discount it completely. I know there are challenges with getting people to buy one and to utilize it. On the other hand, is one of the few things that people might sit down and say, I'm sticking this thing on my head because I want this superior experience of soccer,
To
football,
feel like you're in
baseball.
the stadium.
Yeah. 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 So there's one more thing that we haven't even postulated here about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, and it's a really interesting thought. If this kind of VR, AR products, whether from Apple or anywhere else, become more and more common, I'm not seeing much evidence of it yet, but it's obviously possible. People are going to want that stuff. Could that be part? It will. Sorry, it will be part of a live streaming, live sport strategy. It just will.
Well, and think what people pay now for season tickets to any of these sports.
Sure.
And it's crazy. And so
I won't show you my bills.
Well, well, and so if you back up your bills against an Apple Vision Pro, and maybe you couldn't watch every game, or but if you had the opportunity to do some of it, it's one place people will spend money.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's other reasons to go to the Grab, but I think your basic point is a really strong one, that kind of product could, of all the places that kind of product could benefit in streaming, sports streaming and watching live sport is right up there.
We'll see. And
probably any company can pull that off. It probably is Apple, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, again, it's staggering to think about the world 3 years ago, which was not that long ago, obviously, and just how many things have changed. I mean, 3 years ago, we barely had heard the term ChatGPT. And now it's integrated into everything, and large language models are everywhere. So what's the next 3 years going to bring? And what hardware, what software, what services, where are the streaming services going to go? How many more are going to consolidate or just simply disappear? That's why we do this show, is to speculate on some of these things and try to keep our finger on the pulse.
Because Apple's absolutely, and Apple's in such an interesting part of the space.
Yes.
What I do think is interesting in broadly, though, is how Apple is positioning itself in live sport. It's clearly interested. It's gone all in on a couple of things. I would say Friday Night Baseball has kind of worked, right?
I think from what I've heard,
baseball is never going to bring in NFL numbers, but it's kind of worked. People thought it was a nice thing to have on Apple TV. Fine. I don't think MLS has worked, and I think that is because the point I made earlier, because of the extra paywall. And it's just a very Apple approach, right? Test here, test there. I'm shocked Apple agreed to a 10-year deal for the MLS. That's a big commitment. But, because it does do this testing, dip your toe in here, step back there. Oh, right, we're leaving this, but now we're going to get into Formula One.
But if it had been a big success, they were locked in to enjoy the benefits of that success.
The upside was big. Yes, absolutely.
Right. And so now the upside doesn't appear to be as big, and so they're going to pay extra to get out, but they're still going to end up at the end of the day, they're going to pay less than they would have if they had maintained the 10-year deal. Is my understanding.
Well, yes, because it's over a smaller period, but it's still paying more than it would have in that time period.
Right.
It's an extra 50 million than the league would have otherwise got over that same period of time.
Right. So, and now the league's free to go out and negotiate with other parties,
quite,
or come back to Apple and say, hey, you've helped us grow. We've seen growth. Do you still want to maintain the relationship, or should we go shop it?
Yeah, I suspect it'll be the latter, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
In the meantime, who knows what other sport will have turned up on TV Plus, on Apple TV?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it's
Maybe we'll get some
exciting
golf on there,
times.
Chuck.
I wouldn't mind that at all, Charlotte. I wouldn't mind that at all. Anything else before we
Well,
wrap
this
up
is
that you wanted to touch on?
Well, no, I think it's been a really interesting period that the sports broadcasting bit has become such a big part of the Apple TV story. We've just kind of accepted, oh yeah, this series is good, this series, whatever, and now this is the next kind of element around the discussion. I just find that really interesting, and yeah, we'll wrap up the morning show next time around, which I think will be very good. I'm hoping it finishes strong.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So, Charlotte, where can folks find you?
I'm at Charlotte A. Henry across most social media platforms. I am at theedition.net, where you can get all sorts of stuff on the crossover of culture, media, and sport. And my new book, Streaming Wars, out now. You can buy it anywhere. It covers, how the streaming world has grown, what that means for us, and a little bit of what we'll get to in the future as well.
Great.
And how about you?
Oh, yeah, you can find me over at macvoices.com. That's where you'll see lots of great interviews and lots of interesting content. We are in the process of releasing our Mac Voices holiday gift guide shows, which are always some of our most popular of the year because they allow us to connect with friends, talk about some stuff we love or stuff we can recommend, and just in general celebrate being friends and being part of the Apple community. And on all the socials,
well, you know what my gift.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, what my gift guide recommendation will be.
I've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah. The AirPods Pro 3. If you can get Santa to deliver you some of those, that's a great present.
There you go. There you go. So we got a special gift guide pick in here. Until next time, we'll see you back here on Apple or on TV Plus Talk, talking about Apple TV. Thanks for watching.